Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Enemy Stream. My name is Andrew Benison, and we've got a really good show for you lined up today, in which I'll be shooting Michael in the face live, killing him, like that, shooting him right in his fucking head, right there. And we're also going to be talking, if he survives that, we're going to be talking about some news stories, things going on in the gaming world. We're going to be talking about how Stadia is dead. We're going to be talking about how Overwatch is dead. Are we going to be talking about PlayStation VR2 being dead? I mean, maybe. They're Sony's saying they're going to hit the ground running with 2 million units at some point next year, but you got to ask yourself, where's the content? You know, they've got this Horizon game, and there's going to be some ports of older VR games, and there's going to be a Resident Evil VR, which is kind of VR, you know, shoved into a Resident Evil game again. So, you know, maybe it's going to be great, maybe it's not. Either way, the VR frontier is expanding. We hope it doesn't go the way of Stadia. Holy shit, that'd be terrible, because we're sort of banking on VR working, but we'll be getting into all of that and more as we go through this here episode. So, a little bit just before I bring Michael in and shoot him right in his fucking head, I want to talk just a little bit about what we're up to at Enemy Team, following on from the previous episode. So obviously we're stepping up content production with streams regularly going out every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Perhaps the worst time to stream because everyone is either at work, asleep, or miserable, so miserable that they don't even want to turn their PCs on. So maybe we'll adjust those time frames, but we're getting into the swing of things. We're finding our groove. We're finding out the best flow for us to save video gaming, okay? It's complicated business, folks, as they say. So we're ramping up the streaming, we're ramping up content creation. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff coming from us very soon. We're also going to be doing a bit of a restructure with the Patreon. Obviously, it's been in a sort of low power mode. There's not much in the way of the tiers or information on the rewards. So I'm going to be working on that. Same with the Discord. I've sort of rearranged the channels and everything that we have in there. Going to be getting hopefully some bots set up to do some automated posting of things like the stream going live or posting content on TikTok, all that kind of jazz, so that you don't miss out on anything. You got to be in the Discord or you're going to miss out on really, really cool shit happening. And I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it right now. I mean, there's a ton of other stuff coming. Things like the Steam page, we're going to have Enemy Team Steam page up very shortly, and Gun Day will be there, Smash Punks will be there, although got to talk to Valve about transferring rights, and that's always fun, so it might not be overnight, but we do want to get things like Smash Punks up and running and playable. Gun Day, ready to wishlist, and anything else that we work on, things like Oppressor or other prototypes. If we've got a Steam page, we at least have a hub from which we can host things and promote what we're doing. So all that and more coming soon, working very hard and diligently behind the scenes on all of these things. Early days, but very exciting stuff. Right, so let me put on my beloved headphones. I love wearing my gamer headphones so that I can talk to Michael. And let me just make sure that we're all good and boopity bap. How you doing, Michael? Should we pretend like this is the first time we've spoken today? How you doing, man? Like, how's it going?
Yeah, no, doing all right. Had a decent day. I mean, how have you been?
Oh yeah, great. It's great to see you. It's not like we talk constantly with one another. So yeah, happy to see you on the stream. Yeah, enough of that shit. You know, we gotta figure out a way to transition into these kind of group chats without it being like, oh yeah, doing good, thanks. Because it's like, yes, of course you're doing good. I spoke to you. We've been talking for the past 45 minutes. Whatever. So, we're gonna, I guess, try and shoot you in the face fucking immediately. So we could try jumping into that right now, which is gonna require some hassle, some setting of things up. So do you wanna? How about I'll do my hassle-free setup. That way you can be talking while I'm doing the shit, and then you can do your hassle-free setup, and it'll all be great.
Oh gosh, I have to talk on my own.
Yeah.
I have to socialize with the non-existent chat on my own.
Yeah, well, you know, and of course there'll be thousands of comments from people catching the replay, as they do later.
All right, yeah, I guess I can talk about the project then, about what we've been up to, and
Yeah.
like why we're doing this. So we want to add multiplayer to Gunday. Obviously, everyone loves multiplayer games. I personally love it when I can play the game with a friend and just dick about the whole time and just mess around. Super fun. So this project of mine is to effectively test multiplayer in VR, because multiplayer with third-person characters is not too difficult, not overly difficult. Multiplayer in VR is a lot trickier. Because there's more components within each blueprint, within each actor, within each player character. So there's a lot more complexity there, and that's what this project is all about. It's just getting that working, figuring out the best practices, figuring out how we're going to transfer all the information into Gunday.
I'd just like to add that that entire time you've been talking, literally every 4 seconds, Oculus has been going bum bum bum, bing, bing boop, bing bong, so maybe we could hear you, maybe not. It was much more important that every single time this headset does something, it sends a message to Microsoft Windows 10 to make a loud ding-dongy noise. And that was really important.
Did I love ding-dong noises?
Oh, sweet, and I've got that lovely echo effect now. So, well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Got to figure out how to do this in a more streamlined. Well, this is entertainment. Like me screaming "Bing Bang Boo." Who wouldn't want to hear this shit? Who wouldn't want to hear this? Right. So I'm gonna change. I'm gonna now change my microphone. I straight up wonder, should we just do these as pre-recorded segments, honestly, because just trying to go through this quickly, it's impossible. It's impossible to go through this quickly.
Yeah, it might be worth a thought. I mean, it's certainly more interesting doing it live. We're doing it live, but there's just so many technical problems.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Some old school. What the fuck's his name? I actually just forgot his name. I'm gonna call him like Ron Harrison. That's not his name. Also, can you now hear me through this? Does it sound like I'm coming through? Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's coming through that.
No, that's
not sound good.
But that's all right. Oh, really? Oh.
Okay, now I can't hear you at all.
Well, yeah, but the stream can hear me through this still.
I can hear you on stream, but I can't hear you through Discord.
That's okay, because I got this way far away from me. If I do that, hello. If I talk like this, you should now be able to hit. No. What if I
still can't hear you on Discord for some reason.
What if I do this? Oh, the VR headset just turned off.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Because the VR headset turned off, so that's really good. Really love, Meta, how plugging this thing into a PC is a fucking nightmare, and it never does what you want it to do, and the only input you physically have on it is this button, which is not enough. It's really cool. Much appreciated. It's not like you have literal billions to be able to make better. I mean, the tech's alright, but it should be a lot better. If we were in charge, we'd be making superior decisions, but that's obvious. Right. God damn, this is a fucking absolute... Right, here we go. This is gonna work. Bing bang boo. Transitioning to VR mode. Transforming. Wait a minute. Gotta do the hair reveal. Oh. I'll try it with glasses. It's always nice to be able to see. Oh, and there we go. The headset turned off again for absolutely no reason. And now I look really stupid, but that's okay. Okay. And here we go. Bing bang boo. I'm gonna switch to... I'm gonna go to VR gaming mode. So now we can't see you, Michael. Sorry. But I can see me. That's cool. That's really cool. And I'm going to open up the game, and I'm going to try not to display all of my personal passwords and information that would, like, location dox me and all that shit. I'm going to attempt to not completely fuck up.
While you do that, I'm going to get my headset set up.
Yeah, you get set up. And I've not... Can you also just tell me real quick, is the stream... Can people see the game? Oh no, I think he's gone. He's left me. So I've now got to jankily...
They cannot see it.
Oh no! What a surprise. That's fine. We'll go to game capture. We'll hit the cog. It says specific window capture. Oh, right, yeah, because I had to manually set it, so it's set to Gunday driver. Let's set that to multiplayer VR test. A bada bing, a bada boom. Everything's great. Everything is fucking great in the world. And I've clicked in. Is that coming through fine for the viewers at home? We'll just assume yes. We'll just assume yes. Oh no. I gotta sit back a little. Oh no. Oh no. I'm a little too close to my desk, but that's fine. Well, I got my gun, so I am ready to shoot Michael in the face, though I can't hear him or see him. So it's maybe not going so... Ooh. Yeah, pick up a ball. So cool. Let's see. Let me peer through. It'd be actually, I should be able to do this. I don't know if that's completely killed the experience for you guys. Right now I don't care. Michael, can you hear me?
Working on it.
Ah, okay. No, we're all good. We're all good. We'll switch back to multiplayer test. Yeah, you guys can see. So I don't actually think you guys... I don't think we've shown this to... Oh, God, I just smacked my face. There we go. Also, the joys of not having a mic on a boom, being in a tiny shit UK house with no fucking room, not having the right equipment. It's really cool, actually. But anyway, so this is a multiplayer test that Michael built. I'm going to stay away from the fire because it's really loud and probably annoying. So yeah, alongside the Gunday build, we've got this test space, which I believe is like a part of the default Unreal VR setup stuff, where we're just basically experimenting with getting VR movement and everything working. And once we've sort of cleared a few hurdles, we'll just be handily dropping this stuff into the Gunday project, and then we'll all be flying around in jets and shit shooting at each other, which is going to be really cool. So, how are we coming along, Michael? Oh shit.
I'm in, baby.
He's in. Now I'm sat down, and Michael has stood up, so he's going to look much taller than me, but I can, as promised, shoot you right in the fucking head.
You bitch.
There we go. Boom. Boom. Oh shit. Oh, look at that. I just shot the cube in midair. That was fun.
I can just use this to protect me. This is my shield.
Nice. Nice. Well, so we didn't get a chance to show people this last time, but the last time I saw this, we were moving around with a sort of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse level of frame rate. So you've got lerping and everything working, and that is very nice and smooth, might I add.
Yeah, I think it works out pretty well. I wonder if I can yoink your... Did that work?
Yeah. You just stole my gun. You fucking asshole. That was for shooting you in the face. That was for shooting you in the face, not for you yoinking. That's great. So if I hand you so if I say, hey, here's this gun, take it. It's yours. I don't even want it.
Yeah, oh no, I'm too tall, I can't grab it.
Uh-oh.
Could you put it on the side here?
Yeah, I gotta be really careful though, because I'm right next to my desk. I don't want to slam. There you go. So if I do that, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, now I can shoot.
Oh shit.
No, I'm the one who shoots.
Oh, I'm smacking shit at my desk. I don't care. Fuck. Fucking shit.
He's too wily. He's too wily.
I'm not good at throwing. Clearly. I never have.
Throwing's weird in this. I think we probably need to build like a custom function for throwing.
Yeah, I think Jack was talking about doing that already in the Gunday project. I'm moving way far back. There's no way anybody can hear me well on stream. So maybe I should be... Oh yeah, I was meant to set the Streamlabs mic to this as well to see what that's like. Let me try that real quick. Fuck it. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing these things. Uh-oh. Streamlabs is also up on screen, so I don't know if that means... Oh wait, hang on. I keep forgetting that I do actually have the ability to bring up my monitors. So let me just see what this looks like. But yeah, fuck it, let's try it. So my mic is set to my desktop mic. And I'm going to change that to my headset microphone. Okay, how's that? I don't know, but I can still see it moving, and if I turn my head over here, it's still loud. Alright, cool. Well, we'll see what it's like on the stream once we are done with this. But if I do that, I think we're coming through. I think we're coming through fine. Well, we'll find out. But yeah, that's... Are you dead? Nope, you're alive. Your hands are sort of merged together, though. Oh, no. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I did the thing I mentioned. If the headset turns off, then Discord just loses input from the microphone, even if it comes back on. So
That's cool.
yeah, I checked the stream. It seemed fine. I could hear you just fine anyway. So hopefully it's all good.
Cool feature. Cool feature. But yeah, so we've got pretty smooth movement going on. This stuff seems to be replicating quite nicely as well. So if you like throw it, or try to throw it to me. I'm sort of launched it at you. Oh, let me try to do that again. So if I'm gonna go even further back now, so I actually have room. I don't know how you threw very nicely. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I was able to throw it like that. When I've been testing it, it really does not throw very well.
Oh,
jeez. You fucked it.
Yep, I did. I'll try to throw this block to you instead.
Can't have shit in Detroit.
God damn. Okay, maybe underhand. So.
Yeah, I think I did under. Ooh.
Oh, god damn. I'm really not good at this.
I wish I could pick up stuff.
There you go. Oh, come on, man. That was like a varsity throw.
I'm too afraid to move too fast. I'm definitely going to hit something.
Now, to me, this is the future of game. Oh, come on. This is the future of gaming. Just throwing... Ooh. Are you having to, grab it, frame perfect, though?
I think pretty much, yeah. It's really tricky. Oh. It'd be nice to have, some leeway. So say if I press the grab button, and then it flies into my hand while I'm grabbing.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good. Well, we had, Jack kind of had... Oh, you've gone again, haven't you? Something's happened. Because his fucking head just detached from his... Oh, you're back. I think you're back. I'll shoot him in the head just to see if he's okay.
This microphone thing's really annoying. I don't know why it keeps disconnecting. But I'm using the HTC Vive. So, we have the sensors up on the side. So either they keep shifting and losing the headset or something's happening. But every time it happens, it loses my microphone, so...
Well, this is the I'm going to shoot you right in the face every time you fucking... This is the major, and has been since its inception, really, the major setback to VR, or the thing that's kind of really holding it back. Beyond the obvious point of content is king, is the technology is not quite there yet. It's massively improved. And to be fair, you're working off of a headset which is now a good couple of years old. I know that the Vive Pro is much better. But it needs to improve. It needs to improve. I guess we'll touch back on that when we talk about PlayStation VR2 in a little bit. But this is just a cool demonstration. So, we started this, a week ago? About this time last week is when we assigned you a task of, get multiplayer VR working. And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only time that I'd really had done any multiplayer was in in a test project with basic third-person characters. So getting this working was definitely a challenge. I think this is my first major Unreal 5 project as well. So I had to adapt to all of that. But yeah, no, all in all, I'm pretty happy with how this is working. There's just a few little things here and there. Grabbing isn't technically replicated properly right now. Even so, it's still working pretty well. Yeah, I'm quite happy. I mean, plus, like all these physics objects, I think replicating physics objects is one of the hardest things to do in VR. Well, in any game, in any multiplayer project, as we've experienced with Smashbunks. But I think in Gunday, as far as I'm aware, the only like physics objects that are really replicated are like the guns in your car. You know, you can take the guns out of your pocket and toss them around and stuff. So if we make sure to keep everything else, or if we make sure to minimize the number of physics replicated objects, then it should be fine multiplayer wise.
Well, that is certainly the hope, and obviously, us as you mentioned, being UE5 does bring with it some advantages, and hopefully those advantages continue long into the future. So, you know, we're going to try and ride the wave, the cutting edge wave of technology, so that this stuff is as good as it can be. But for a week's work is fucking awesome, and I'm very excited for us to be able to, you know, hop in a car together or hang off of a helicopter and shoot one another. The kind of experiences that just no other VR game can provide. That's what we're going to be working towards. That's what we are working towards, and I think we're moving at a rapid pace. Oh, look at him, he's a little Heidi boy. So, you know, we're going to see where this stuff takes us, but it's extremely promising results for what has been 6 days of work.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. I'm looking forward to getting into Gunday and actually getting this stuff working.
Yeah. All right, let's switch back to camera mode, and I will go first. Let me discombobulate myself and rip my headset from my head.
All right, I'll be right back as I get this going.
Drop all my controllers everywhere, and smash my headset into the floor. No one can hear me, of course. Not really. Okay. I think we're back. I think we're back into the land of the living. And let me put myself back there. Put my headset on. I'm just going to close the build down, Michael. So if you can return to the land of the living when you want, of course. There you go. Bing bang boom. Loads of noises. It is so cool how Windows constantly makes noises if you touch it. If you touch or look at Windows, it loves to make... There you go. Bing bang boo. Latest USB derived devices you connected is malfunctioned. It cannot be recognized. Boop, 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 boop. Love it. It is awesome. Is Michael returning? Who knows? But yeah, so that's our VR experimentations in the multiplayer gaming space. So far, so good. Very enjoyable. And yeah, it's rudimentary right now, but you'd be surprised at how quickly we can pull stuff together. So stay tuned on that front. The next steps are going to be bringing a lot of that functionality into Gunday so that we can, you know, just look at each other, wave, maybe shoot guns in each other's faces, and we'll take it from there. It's early days, but we're really trying to lay down a foundation of figuring out the kind of essential pillars of what the game is and what is the technology that we need to use to enable us to make those kinds of products. So whether it's using Houdini for building a massive city or utilizing Unreal 5 chaos physics to be able to replicate physics items in a VR space, etc., etc. There's so many different systems and tools which are, you know, either so new that no one's used them or in a state of sort of not even being finished, so it's kind of uncertain which direction they'll necessarily go in. But they're all really exciting, cool things that we want to take advantage of so that we can not only make games which provide experiences that you just can't get anywhere else, but also basically just like undercut the competition, because tools like Houdini have been around for a long time, and people are not really... we don't think people are seeing the real benefits of them beyond, like, yes, of course you can generate massive worlds and you can use them to make cool looking skyboxes, and it's like, but what is the impact that you could have on the design of a game, on the systems of rules and the win-loss conditions? No one's really thinking about that, and we'll talk more about that in a bit as we get into what we're planning to do with Gunday. But there's so many things that we can utilize with this technology to do more than just make for a prettier skybox or make for higher quality visuals or whatever. So lots of cool things coming down the pipe, and hopefully we're coming through okay. I don't know. We'll find out. Streamlabs is looking all right. Looking at all the readings. Oh, you can't hear me in Discord. Can you hear me now?
I think coming through good on stream.
Of course, because I need to.
I can't hear you on Discord.
Yeah, I need to. I fucked up. I fucked up bad. I forgot to change it over. I straight up think we're gonna have to, break the fourth wall for a second. I think we're gonna have to maybe do like pre-recorded stuff with the streaming, or like just do a stream where we're in VR the entire time, so it's pre-set up. Because just flipping between the two, having to like change my microphones on multiple apps, and doing the whole like, yes, allow access to my headset and Windows, all of that, absolutely enraging. So we're learning as we go. But let's jump into let's do some opinion pieces here. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. So, as mentioned at the beginning of the show, Stadia is dead. And we're coming into this news story about 5 days too late, whatever. So Stadia died, and approximately 4 people are actually upset and or surprised by that. And it is a shame, but the sad part is not that Stadia, in my opinion, the sad part is not that it shut down. The sad part is that it wasn't interesting to begin with, right? That what they set out to create was a platform in which anybody could access essentially any game at any time. And the potential, like the potential of that is limitless. Like what I've envisioned for years and what I thought Stadia was going to do was really cool shit. Like you'd be watching somebody on YouTube playing a game, playing through a level of Halo or something, and you'd be able to click a button and immediately that YouTube video window would load you into that spot in the game, or throw you into the session with that player, and you could play co-op or whatever. So that the barriers between being a viewer of games or looking at reviews or whatever, or being on a store page and actually being able to play that game would be gone. There'd be no more barriers. And that technology would also allow you to do really insane shit, not just having better graphics for your game, but being able to have, thousands of people in the same instance at the same time. Push physics calculations through the roof, etc., etc. And there were a couple examples, I guess, of games doing that on the Stadia platform, but for the most part, it was just a means to be able to play Red Dead or Cyberpunk or whatever without needing an amazing PC. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been following all of the Stadia stuff too much, but from what I saw, from what I understand of it anyway, so the game runs on their computers, right? And then you, via your internet connection, are able to play games on their computers, but from your computer. So you don't need to have like a top-end computer, you just need to have a good network connection. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, at a base level, that sounds decent. But I mean, I guess if you're a gamer, then you'll probably have a good enough gaming PC anyway, for a lot of games anyway. And yeah, like you said, there is a good amount of wasted potential there.
What was, so let's cut to the heart of it. Like, what were they actually intending to do with Stadia? Were they intending to provide new experiences? Or were they intending to provide the same experiences as everybody else? It's just slightly more accessible. And as you say, yeah, if you're a hardcore gamer, if you're a core gamer, you've already probably got the equipment. Whether it's a console or a decent PC or an amazing PC, you're already covered. So, and then to the wider gaming world, you're asking them to completely change the way that they do things and essentially exclusively sign up to one platform to get the same content that they can essentially get anywhere else. So what were they trying to do there? Were they thinking about gamers and putting gamers first and creating brand new experiences that are not only competitive to what you can get on PC and consoles, but also are like brand new and awesome and exciting? That essentially that this would replace gaming. Like it would completely knock out the competition. They weren't doing the cool, exciting stuff, but they were trying to replace the competition, right? They weren't being driven by let's provide gamers new experiences. It was let's use the power of Google to take away market share from existing competitors. So it was like shareholder and corporate acquisition driven. It was market share driven, not entertainment driven. To me, that's why it failed. Because the fundamental reasons for it existing in the first place was not to entertain, not to provide new experiences, not to push the boundaries of gaming forwards. It was just to try and take away Valve's PC market share and PlayStation and Xbox's console share, etc., etc. Now, had they been going in thinking about not let's take away from Steam, but let's add to the world of gaming, I think the Stadia platform could have been tremendously different. As I described, you could have had... It could have been a portal into an infinite number of worlds that can provide so many different kind of opportunities and experiences, ways for games developers to be able to connect with their audience, ways for streamers to be able to interact with their audience. And then, yeah, on top of that, games being built in a fundamentally different way because they are now untethered and unrestricted and don't need to have a single unit running a game or a single console. They're not bound technically by hardware limitations. Obviously, the reality of the situation is they still are, but it's Google. They've got the resource to be able to do some crazy shit. But they weren't thinking. They didn't. It seems like they didn't think about any of that at any stage. It was just, hey, people, people can't afford to keep up with rising GPU costs, so we'll just sell them games online, and really, like, what was the plan there? Like, hopefully they'll just give up their Steam accounts or Epic Game accounts or say fuck off to Xbox Live, and they'll just come over to us because that's how all the marketing, that's how everything they put out, that's how it came across.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think, from my perspective, the biggest tragedy in all this is just how they handled it, really. I mean, like, they announced it just out of nowhere. Any developers who've been working on games to work with Google Stadia, they found out from the announcement. Like, at most, they'd find out a couple hours before when Google told them before the announcement, which is horrible because I saw a number of posts from game developers saying, this is a heartbreaking day for us because we've been working on porting our game to Google Stadia for the last 4 or 6 months, and all of a sudden it's gone. So there's 6 months of wasted work. There's half a year gone. For us that would kill us. Back in the Prospect days, that would have just killed us.
Yeah.
We'd be dead again.
Well, rug pulling has been a routine feature of our experience making games, and it's very important to note. This is why so many people and so many developers are becoming risk averse and just going with the status quo and not willing to jump on new things. It's because generally new things are being introduced by people who don't actually care about the new thing that they've created. They don't want to see that thing grow and become a massive success on the merits of its content. They just want to make something which is cool and shiny, and hopefully other people will do the work for them. This was our experience with things like, we talked to the Snap Games lot. We could have gone down the route with Snap Games. That was all cancelled and killed. We did a lot of work with Apple Arcade. Same deal. We were like, hey, we've got this crazy cool shit. Would you like to see us do more of it? And they were like, maybe. Just whatever. And it's like, do you not? But no one's supporting your platform. You don't have any good content is king. It's insane how many people we go to, how many platforms exist that don't understand this fundamental point, right? That, it doesn't matter how cool your tech is. It doesn't matter what the name of your brand is or how big it is or how much money you have, how much reach and influence. You need content. And yeah, we also need money. We need security. But everyone that we go to try and develop on their cutting edge new crazy platform with billions of users already installed or huge potential for growth, nothing interesting is done with those platforms. People who have genuinely interesting content are just ignored and sidelined in favor of other entities that have big IPs and big pull and all that kind of shit. And nobody cares. I remember, I told you a couple of weeks ago about Netflix games, and you were like, you didn't even know that 30 Netflix games had come out. And again, some of those games from big names tied into big IP TV shows or game developers, but it's not enough. Sorry, not enough. Like, I don't care that X has released something. I care if X has released something good. Something that's sticky, something that's going to keep me coming back for more, something that's going to motivate me to say fuck off to whatever platform or service I'm currently using and jump onto the new one. And time and again, these people do not get the point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the companies that already exist in terms of game stores and stuff like that, Steam, Epic Games, Xbox Games, like all these game stores, they already have a monopoly in the market. I don't think there's really going to be anyone coming in. I don't think anyone's going to overtake them, honestly. I don't think I'm not sure if it's possible at this point. Like, Valve, Steam, Epic Games, like, they'd all have to majorly mess up. They'd all have to make huge mistakes, I think. And this new company coming in would have to bring something hugely new to the table.
And that's the thing, is like, and that's how you do it, right? Is you bring something new to the table. You don't peddle the same shit you can get on every other platform, or you don't peddle something which is 99% similar. It's also like this kind of backwards logic, and again, we've experienced this directly with publishers and funders and all sorts. Spreadsheet men see things in values and pie charts, and so they're looking at the total market share and saying, how can we take a chunk of this, rather than thinking like, how could we create an entirely new market? So you look at like the blue sky thinking of Nintendo back in like 2005-06 with the Wii. They weren't just thinking about how can we not only secure our existing Nintendo fan base, but maybe pull some people from Xbox and PlayStation. They went, fuck that. How can we create something that's so new, that's so different, revolutionary, that many of those existing people will jump on board our train instantly because of how different and interesting it is, but will actually create a whole new market of gamers. And that's exactly what they did. And that sort of then paved the way, along with what they were doing with the DS. That really paved the way for the rise of the iPhone and touchscreen gaming, and the world that we're in today, where gamer does not just describe people like you and me, but it describes basically everybody. Like, it's almost become gamer has become almost a meaningless term as a consequence. You need to add a few other descriptors to it because everybody plays games. So they created a whole new market, and I think Google had that opportunity with Stadia, and it doesn't seem like many people within the organization either realized they had that opportunity or gave a shit. And it's probably a mixture of both. And if they had, no doubt, companies like ours would have jumped on board. Individuals like ourselves would have jumped on board for these crazy new gaming experiences. Wasn't to be. And it's so sad that across the board, everywhere we look, it's the same story. Snap games, sorry. Gotta stay on brand. Netflix games, Apple Arcade, almost forgot the name of it then for a second. It's the same shit everywhere we go. Discord had a gaming, not a gaming platform necessarily, but a gaming store. I mean, you have an install base of like hundreds of millions of people at this point with Discord, and you failed to get a storefront. Not only failed to get a storefront built into the app up and running, most people, it came and went with most people not even realizing it existed. And again, my experience, a year before it launched, I was at Gamescom and I asked them, like, are you guys planning on doing anything like building a store? Like, I'd identified, like, hey, you guys have a launcher which is on like every single gamer's PC on Earth. Are you thinking of launching a storefront? Because there've been rumors that they were trying that stuff out. I was like, it sounds like the most sensible option. And they said, nope, no plans. And I went, well, if there are, can I give you my details? It'd be really cool. We'd love to get on board and take advantage and hopefully drive some sales your way and whatnot. And, be an evangelist for this, because it totally makes sense. And that would break the monopoly Valve has. And, Steam's great and all, but it is a monopoly. It'd be great to have more competition in the space. And they went, yeah, sure. And then they never talked to us, and Storefront came and went. And it's like, so if they're doing that to us, and yeah, we were small fries, but they would have done that to others, and that's why it failed. And again, it's because none of these people are thinking about how can we add, how can we create actual blue sky thinking. It's just, can we do this thing again? Can we do what everybody else is doing but slightly differently? Can we steal from other people? Boring. And so you got to ask, why is the world of gaming so fucking boring? It's that, or that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, like it's really hard to steal from other people without doing something new at this point. I mean, even with games themselves, if a really cool game comes out and then a bunch of other developers take that game and basically remake it but slightly different, there's countless examples of that. Everyone's just going to play the original game, like unless they don't know about the original game and they somehow stumble across this new version of that game, maybe. But even then, yeah, like they're just going to go back to the original when they find out that it's basically a carbon copy.
Yep.
They're always going to see these new versions of that game, these copies as copies. I think that's the main problem, really.
Yep, absolutely. Now, continuing on the theme of rug pulls, I wanted to bring up the Disco Elysium news. So the Disco Elysium, obviously very successful RPG. Sequel has been announced, but recently it was reported in a number of publications. I've got a link to Games Developer, so I'll bring that up. Report: Disco Elysium co-creators ousted from developer. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Zome ZACE /UM. So cool, so edgy. So the high level backstory here is that these guys, bunch of commies, basically create a gaming collective, creating a company, and one of these guys has a novel. What's his name? Let me find it. Kurvitz. I can't find his full name. Robert Kurvitz. So yeah, he has a novel which basically they adapt into this detective RPG, Disco Elysium. Comes out in 2019, critical acclaim, and it becomes an awards darling because says the right things. It's made by the right kind of games developers. The priest class of the game dev world said, "Yep, you get the stamp of approval." But everything's rosy, right? Until now, where it's reported that actually key members of the team, including the editor, the lead designer Robert Kurvitz, the art director Alexander Rostov, and the writer Helen Hindpede. I don't know. I'm butchering everybody's names. I don't give a shit. They all actually left recently, and they were allegedly forced by studio leadership to leave last year. And so, they say in a comment on one of these blog posts from one of the trio who's left, they said that basically this was down to the Elysium's executive producers, and they acknowledged that these producers were the reason why they managed to get the initial investment. Like without them, they wouldn't have got the initial investment to make the game. But you got to ask yourself, and again, we found ourselves in this situation plenty of times, and it's why we want to move forwards as player-funded, as gamer-funded, as opposed to going straight to publishers and funders. Because look what's happened. They've spent years turning their kind of communist commune game dev collective into a business. They've made the game of their dreams. They've released it. It's been wildly successful. It's made lots of money. And then the sequel comes along, and they've been ousted in some form, and whether or not it's them having to leave because the situation's untenable or they were actually ousted and basically ejected from their own business. And, we don't have all the details at the moment. There's probably a lot of NDA shit that is going to keep the stuff under wraps for a while. Irrelevant. What matters is that in order to create the game of their dreams, they created the circumstances that led to their own downfall. So you got to ask yourself, was that worth it? Is it worth it in the first place to go through all the stress and strain and pain and grief and strife only to get ousted once the thing works?
Yeah, that must be heartbreaking. I mean, to be able to work on, the game of your dreams, like it's something that you really want to make, and then just being kicked out. That's got to hurt.
Yeah. Like, thanks for all the fish. Now fuck off. And we've seen this, similar stories play out, through many businesses over time. Like Cisco is a famous one where I think the two of the original founders, maybe they were the two founders, they were ousted from Cisco after it started to become a big success. And the board was like, hey, it was great, thanks for setting up this company in your garage, but now that we're like a major multinational, like conglomerate business, we're going to need you to fuck off, actually. And they got booted as well. So this plays out time and time again, but if you're making creative products and you sign up to receive a load of money, you bring investors on to invest into your business, or a publisher who, regardless of whether or not they've got ownership of your IP, look, if they've got a deal where they're giving you money to make a game, they own you until that money is fully paid back. And even then, you're still tied to them. You're not getting out of it. I think if you're making creative products that you care about, if you don't care about the business, if you don't care about what you're doing and just pragmatically, moving forwards to create a thing which makes money, then these kind of things are, I wouldn't say less important, but it will sting less when shit inevitably goes awry or not in your favor. But with creative products where you are trying to take a risk, you are trying to push boundaries, to me, it just now, at this point, makes little to no sense to do it, because even people who have the right opinions, even people who make the right kind of games, who do stuff that fits into the industry, games that could become that create titles like awards darling, even if you do all the right things and jump for all the right hoops, you still end up losing. You still end up getting ejected. So why would we, enemy team, people who have been essentially like pariahs of the industry from the get-go, who actually have no real desire to be part of the industry, why would we then get ourselves tied down with a publisher at this stage where we absolutely do not have the leverage to be able to, push around a funder or to be able to... I mean, fuck, we've been in situations in the past where companies that are basically dead have been able to push us around. As a sort of like suicidal, like, hey, if we're going down, we're taking you with us. But the only reason they were able to do that and threaten that was because we had a contract with them, we had a deal with them. So, I think this story is a great highlight to like just how tough the situation is in the gaming world and probably in the larger creative space right now. If you take money from some large entity whose goal is not to create amazing products, but it's simply to have a larger portfolio or to impress shareholders with, hey, we released 10 things this year and who gives a shit if they made money, we did stuff. If that's what their goal is, which it is, then at some point there's going to be a disagreement. And again, we've been through that plenty of times. We've said, we want to go one way, and they say, nope, that's not what you agreed to at the signing of the contract 12 months ago, 15 months ago. And we say, well, things have changed. They go, no, things cannot change. That's a huge problem. That changes our projections. The spreadsheet figures do not add up anymore. Now we've got a problem. We've got a problem, but we also have a contract, and they're bigger and they have more money. Oh shit. Looks like, and what happened with these guys? We don't know the full details, but they lost. Clearly they lost out. Because that's what happens.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. I mean, like you say, we've been through countless situations where this exact thing has happened to us. It's just another example. There's going to be a ton of examples of this sort of thing happening, like time and time again. Like all these companies, they're just going corporate. I feel it feels like every company's going corporate these days. Like there really aren't very many who actually have their consumers' best interests in mind anymore.
No, because they don't need to, do they? They just don't need to. The goal is to get acquired by a larger entity which has the power, has the IPs, has the subsidiary companies, has the capacity to be able to weather any storm. To jump sideways for a second, look at like Saints Row. Like, what a disastrous fucking launch. But they're like, hey, hopefully it makes some money. And even if it doesn't, who's gonna make a Saints Row competitor other than us in VR? Like, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing making a big open world, criminal orientated shoot 'em up type game. So they can just try again in a couple years. They can just sit there and try it again. And even if you want to do something, even if you're working for that business and you want to do something interesting and cool, the word from down top is going to be, like we've pretty much seen with this Saints Row, is make something cheap and affordable. Reuse assets, get together, a skeleton crew, B team, whatever it was they pulled together, those people were not good enough. That team was not good enough to make the game they were setting out to make. But it kept costs down. Apparently the game has made money. So I guess everybody wins, right? The conglomerate holding company gets to say, hey, we released a thing, and the developers working on it, they did get paid. And hey, at the end of the day, the gamers who actually wanted an amazing Saints Row game, they don't get that. They get shit on. But who cares about them, right? That we live in an industry where it's not gamers first, it's not gamers second, it's gamers last. They are literally, I guess, because they are the last on the totem pole, right? They're the last stop in the process of making games. So they're sort of the afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, we've got to oh yeah, we actually have to release the thing and sell it to them. Oh god, how annoying and awkward. Oh god damn, fucking gamers in the way again. Fuck's sake. That's honestly how I think most people in the games world now treat their audience. Is they're a nuisance. They're an annoyance. But the people who do care, and we're not communists, far from it, but these guys set out to make something special, to make something different, and to structure it in a way that was different. And they clearly put their all into it. It's not my kind of game. They're not my kind of people. But they tried their hardest to make that work in the way that we did with things like Prospect. And in much the same way, we both got executed. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible process to go through. But hopefully they learn their lesson as we have. And when someone comes along and says, hey, I've got a big bag of money, just need to attach a couple of strings to you. No, we're good. We're good. We'd rather starve and go hungry and turn off the heat, whatever it takes to save money. And we're going to be doing that anyway in this winter of hell upcoming. We're already doing that. But if we have to go a little bit further, so be it. Because the alternative is you just put a giant fucking rug under our feet that at any point you can pull and completely destroy our lives. So what's the point?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this winter. Already it's starting to get colder. And, it's that really awkward point in fall where you're trying to figure out, do we turn the heating on yet? Or can we wait a little bit longer? We're in that really awkward stage right now.
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't get too bad. But the value of the pound dropped was it this week or sometime last week because of these abysmal decisions made by Liz Truss. I don't really follow all this stuff too much, but I know the value of the pound basically dropped to the point where it was almost equivalent to the dollar, which makes maths a lot easier, to be fair. So I appreciate that. But apart from that, I kind of like money. I kind of don't want to be poor. I kind of want to pay my bills.
Yeah, and that's that segues us nicely into the next news story I wanted to bring up, which is Overwatch 1 being shut down. How am I linking Liz Truss and the falling of the pound to Overwatch 1? Well, one of the arguments for Overwatch 1 being shut down in favor of the free-to-play Overwatch 2 is that it makes the game more accessible. It technically makes the game cheaper for a larger market of people. In a world where we are seeing the games industry somewhat slumping in terms of revenues, that's what the latest reports are saying, sort of quarter on quarter, everything's down. Not by a huge amount, but it's the first signs of the games industry actually having a significant problem. It's been able to weather housing crises and pandemics and all sorts, but this seems to be the first point where things are actually starting to go a little bit awry. And, the argument for a lot of games going in this direction and why, shutting Overwatch 1 down is to forcibly shunt people over to a model which is more accessible. Of course, ultimately, it's so that they can make more money out of people, but it creates the illusion that it's going to be a cheaper game, and that this is going to not only help with people's budgetary concerns during recessions, depressions, etc., but that ultimately it will just improve the experience for people, which I am dubious on all fronts with that, and the initial point of like, look, the games industry is slumping because of economic issues. I think the games industry is predominantly slumping because games are declining in quality, and that pushes towards, hey, we're going to go free to play and do more battle pass things and more microtransactions is not. I mean, it's to me patently obvious. It's not to make things better for the player. It's to insipidly get people hooked into systems, much like Overwatch 1 had loot boxes. They continue to use loot boxes way beyond anybody else. I mean, up until the point of shutdown, there were still loot boxes in the game, right? It's like, that's not, that's not putting gamers first, because it is essentially gambling, or it's trying to hook people and get them addicted to a process, which has nothing to do with the gameplay. It's nothing to do with the system of winning and losing. It's to do with opening and closing a box. And in a different way, they're going to introduce that with Overwatch 2, with passes and all this kind of shit. But it's to make more money out of people, and it's to make people competitively spend money. Because yes, they're saying, of course, heard this with things like Battlefront 2. Yes, you can play the game for free and eventually you'll unlock everything, just like the people who pay. It's not pay to win or anything like that. And so, yeah, but we all know that the time scales are going to be skewed in such a way that not only do you have to spend money, but over time you're going to end up spending a hell of a lot more money than you would have if you just bought the game. For 40 quid, 50 quid, 70 quid, whatever price point you set it at. So I think we're going to see a lot more games going in this direction under the guise of, we're doing this for the players. It's better for them. It makes the game cheaper. It makes it more accessible. It broadens the market. Another thing that we keep hearing from the larger entities of this industry is, we need more growth. We need more people coming in. While they're also talking about not hitting targets, record profits, but we're not on target. And what's the solution? We need more people. Why is Saints Row more inclusive? It's so that we can get a larger group of people playing the game. And I think, well, growth is important, sure, but did the golden era of gaming get established by broadening the player base of every single product and every single platform to the point that you couldn't definably say who a game was for or who a platform was targeting? No. There is an argument for, if you make products for specific markets, those markets in turn will give you like money because you're fulfilling a market need that they actually have. I don't know if anybody in the Overwatch world is benefiting from their game being shut down, which to me is fucking insane. That it's only been around for a couple of years, right? 5-6 years. We don't see. It's not like Team Fortress 1 was shut down when Team Fortress 2 came out. And yes, it is more of a centralized system where they're providing servers and everything for people to be able to play on. But if I'm an Overwatch 1 fan, how am I benefiting from that being shut down and being forced to go play a free-to-play game? And how is that actually going to attract and bring someone like me in? Like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll try out Overwatch 2 because it's free, but this is also being done by a company that has like a great track record with this kind of stuff. So much like when I see Halo go free-to-play, I'm a huge Halo fan, but that goes free to play. Okay, I download it, I try it out, I think the gameplay sucks, maybe it will improve, but right off the bat, they're trying to sell me some fucking orange arm for $15. And I go, yeah, I'm done, because if that's the standard we're setting, why the fuck would I stick around? And I think more and more people are clocking onto this, because there's only so many times you can go through this process and say, yeah, I'm getting screwed here. I'm getting really fucking screwed. And then people go, oh, Games economically are starting to slump. The trajectory of growth is starting to decline because of economic concerns. And it's like, well, Warzone did great during the pandemic, and the games industry as a whole grew during the worst economic recession of this century. Maybe it's actually something to do with this shit.
Yeah, and that's not to say that like every free-to-play game, like going free-to-play is bad. Like I think there are some.
They're all terrible, Mike. What the fuck
There are some that do it all right, I think. I mean, I play Dota. I never play against players because I just don't like PvP. So I only ever play against bots, and the bots are difficult enough to provide a challenge, but still be kind of fun. And like I've spent some money on Dota on some like really cool item sets, that change like the particles for certain abilities and stuff like that. And it like to me, it doesn't feel like predatory, I guess, like from the company, like from Valve. That being said, the battle passes. Well, this year's battle pass anyway for the international coming up in November, I think, is when it starts. Maybe late October. Does feel a little bit underwhelming compared to the previous years. Like it does feel like they've been a bit lazy with this one compared to the other ones. Like there's a lot less content. It's harder to get battle pass levels without actually, just paying for them. The community is a bit upset by it. But Valve are kind of trying a bit to improve things. They've added one or two things based on community feedback, so it's not too bad. But yeah, I think in general, going for free to play, it does tend to come across as being a bit predatory, especially if there's loot boxes in the game, because loot boxes they're effectively like infinite money sinks.
Yeah.
I mean, not in every case, but there are quite a few games where you could spend an infinite amount of money on it. I mean, like Diablo Immortal, that's a prime example. I think some people have spent like hundreds of thousands of pounds on that game, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're not stopping. They're going to keep spending, and it sucks because like these people, they have the money to spend on it, but no one else does. Like I'm not spending that anywhere near that much on any game ever. But these whales, they can afford to, so they will, and that's who these companies are aiming their products towards.
Well, and none of these things was things that we were asking for. That we want better netcode. We want better physics replication online. We want games to look better and to have improved AI. But this side of things, nobody was asking for this shit. Nobody, when I was growing up, I wasn't like, oh man, Banjo-Kazooie is great, but it's missing like predatory loot box systems. Like, oh man, if only there was like gambling for children in this game, then Banjo-Kazooie, it's a 9 out of 10, but it would be 10 out of 10 if it had gambling. Nobody was asking for this, and I understand and appreciate from a business perspective, you've got to make money. You've got to make a profit, and things cost more. People cost more. Developing games is not cheap. The size of budgets and everything has gone up considerably. And if you are making an online game, if you don't have multiple, companies like Valve obviously have the benefit of being, they have a monopoly on the PC digital market, and so they can run things like Left 4 Dead and Dota and Team Fortress. They can run, although Team Fortress obviously they announced somewhat recently they're basically stopping development on it, but they're not shutting it down. These are things which can just run infinitely essentially, because they have multiple revenue streams to prop the business up. If your company lives and dies, if we move forwards with Smash Punks, is it going to be enough to sell the game for 20 quid per user and then support that game per user for years off of the back of that £20 per person, sale, which actually is going to end up being, sub £10 in our pocket net revenue? Probably not. We're going to have to sell something as we go in order to upkeep, with server costs and content creation, all that kind of stuff. So it's understandable, but it's the balance of, can we do this in a way where we make money so we can continue growing the game and providing new content, and we don't royally screw you over and create like infinite money sink scenarios? And it's like, yes, that is doable. It's just that makes overall less money. It's like in The Big Short where they're like, if you can afford to make less, make less. And they're like, how dare you say that? That's basically what the industry is like. And that's what people behind closed doors are saying, is like, look, we want to make as much money as possible. We have a fiduciary duty, sure, to our shareholders. Does that mean that you have to be like this predatory? Does that mean you have to tank the quality of gaming as a whole and run IPs into the floor? And also like ruin people's lives with this shit? Is that why we're involved in making games? And are those kinds of people really the people we want driving forwards the games industry, as they have been now for decades? Is this really how we want to continue moving forwards? I don't think so. But it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of months play out, as people do truly have like no money, can't afford heating, and then they're going to boot up games like Halo and Overwatch and be confronted with like, hey, get this orange texture for like $12 or 15 quid. It's going to be interesting to see how people react and if they continue to put up with the bullshit. I have a feeling many will, as they have, but that's because they don't have any alternatives. You know, if you really love if you love playing hero shooters, there aren't many. You know, many have risen and there are many, but not many have been successes and stuck around. So, you know, that's a huge issue again that we have with the industry is that the people who own and run the major institutes of this industry, like they do literally own everything, or they own most things. And so they have the market cornered. There is essentially monopolization going on all over the show, and if you want a competitive product in that space, it's incredibly hard to get it. And if we wanted to step up and make our own hero shooter and compete against Overwatch, we're going to need tens of millions of pounds. Where are we going to get that from? We're probably going to have to go to a funder or go to a publisher and jump through loads of hoops and smile through gritted teeth as they wrap strings, you know, staple strings into our body and make us dance around and do what they say. Don't want to do that. So it then becomes impossible to actually be competitive, or it becomes extremely difficult unless you do stuff that's different. So that leads us to the final thing I wanted to talk about real quick, which is because we are coming up on we've covered a decent number of topics, and we're at an hour and 10. That's all right. So as we come up in the end, so PlayStation VR2 is apparently coming next year, probably not this year. Sony wants, and this is again from GameDeveloper.com, Sony wants they're preparing 2 million PSVR2 units for sale by March 2023. And this is really interesting because obviously, like, we're taking a gamble on VR with things like Gunday and potentially other products. We think there's huge potential in this space, but really the main thing that's holding it back is I guess lack of access to technology, and the technology is just not being very good. That up until recently, these headsets and tools and whatnot are very expensive, very hard to set up, very hard to maintain. As good as the Quest 2 can be, as we just experienced, and as I experience almost every fucking day, it's a nightmare just to have it plug into the PC and just work without noises and jingle jangles going off and updates and all sorts of shit. And my God, does it burn through power like a motherfucker. So, you know, it's great, but it's also really fucking annoying. And you have to put up, you know, which is not a problem I have with my Switch. My Switch doesn't enrage me every time I use it, whereas the Quest always finds a new way to piss me off. So, you know, we need technology that just works out the box. The Quest 2 is a great step in the right direction. And we're all hoping that the PSVR 2 is similarly a great step, but that it also brings a whole load of new stuff to the table, like eye tracking and all that kind of stuff. My main problem, or my main concern with the PSVR 2 is the content. Again, like, what has actually been announced for PSVR 2 beyond things like Horizon? And it's like a lot of ports. Resident Evil is going to be back with VR stuck into it. And people said Resi 8 with VR was great. And it's like, cool, but you know, it's not a game built for VR, so it has its limitations. And as good as that can be, it was not built with VR in mind. It's a pragmatic decision. Hey, we have this game that VR works in, so let's jam it in and, you know, resell it or sell it as a new thing. But what is actually coming to PSVR 2? And I'll bring up a quick list right now. So PSVR 2 games: No Man's Sky, Walking Dead Saints and Sinner, Resident Evil Village, Star Wars, Tales from the Galaxy Edge. You know, immediately I'm reading names that we've heard of these games before, because you can already play half of these games. They're not new. And arguably, some of them completely uninteresting and don't utilize VR technology in any interesting way, shape, or form already. And so, yeah, they're saying we want to have 2 million headsets ready to go at launch. And there's about, I think, 22 million PlayStation 5s in existence. So there's a sizable user base that's growing. Oh, I think you just cut out. You're back. But how many of those 22 million people are going to go out and buy a headset for an extra couple of $100 if all you've got is Horizon and Beat Saber and fucking Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy Edge, which is shit, but no one cares about. It's just another. It's just hey, we've got the Star Wars IP. Let's put R2D2 in it, and you can shoot him in the face. Not interesting, not exciting, not new. So, are we going to be able to take advantage of the PSVR 2 and that launch window? Not with Gun Day, obviously, because that's a expansive product. So, if we're going to jump on board and take advantage of that, we're going to have to make something much smaller, much more compact. Obviously not make compromises, but just make something that's geared towards being able to actually release on that platform in a timely fashion. But again, as we established at the start of the show, or at the start of these topics, like, what's holding us back? And it's like, well, what if they just drop it? What if it just doesn't work out and they just go, whatever? Like we've seen Google doing to Stadia and Snap with Snap Games. What happens if they don't even shift 2 million units? Because no one bought those 2 million units. Why? Because there's just not enough content. You could say some of it is interesting. Some people would look at Horizon and say, that looks like an amazing VR game. I don't. Maybe millions of people out there will. But if they don't, what's the chances of it not being supported moving forwards? And then that ties into larger fears that I have of, well, if the PlayStation VR2 fails because there's no content for it, doesn't matter how good the hardware is, what effect does that have on the overall trajectory of the VR market? We're talking about there being this massive, expansive frontier. But what if that frontier basically gets cut off and killed before its time because nobody does a good job? And this industry does a terrible job almost across the board. So it's almost like, just thinking about it, it's like, oh my god, it's almost a certainty that they're going to fuck this up. And they're going to kill it. And it's like, is there precedent for this? In VR? Yeah, because VR came and went once. We already went through this process 2 decades ago, where it's it completely failed, died on its ass. And it wasn't until Palmer Luckey coming about in, the late noughties, early 10s, with the initial Oculus Rift prototype, that it sort of reinvigorated this desire to do VR. That was a decade plus of just, DOA. So that's my main concern is the hardware, everything that we've seen from the PSVR 2 sounds amazing, looks amazing. The content does not look amazing. And I think that's an uncontroversial opinion. So I need to come up with a more controversial opinion, actually. We got to say something far edgier. I don't know what that is yet, but either way, that sort of, and that point kind of really resonates across the entire industry. The PS5 is a great console, and the PS5 controller is awesome. All the things, the haptic feedback and everything it can do is great. But am I going to go out and buy a PS5? No. Why? Because there's nothing to play on it. Much like there was nothing to play on Stadia. And I was going to say I have a Netflix account. I don't. I mooch off of somebody else. But, I used that account to log into Netflix on mobile and try out their mobile games, and they sucked. So I didn't bother. I played 2 or 3 games. I was just like, this is awful. So, we've got this massive problem where it's there is really cool, amazing technology being developed across the board, and some of that technology is actually pivotal to the future of our business, but it needs content, and no one's doing anything of interest. Or if they are, that's just ported and repeated endlessly. We don't see anything new spread forth from that. Do I start shitting on Bone Labs now? Maybe we start. No, we'll save that for another episode. But hey, it's Boneworks again. It's a series of linear puzzles, and yes, they have modding tools. So people have put the San Andreas City in, and you can fly around in it, or people are running around as the Iron Giant, and that's cool. But that's again modders taking other content and throwing in and saying, wouldn't it be cool if you could play as the Iron Giant in San Andreas? And it's yeah, okay, but is that really pushing things forwards? Is that really the future of gaming? I don't think so. So that's my big concern is, we're putting a lot of emphasis on VR development, and the only interesting stuff that comes out quite frankly, doesn't do enough. And there isn't enough of it. And you need enough of it for people to go out and say, yes, this $500 purchase is completely justifiable because there's loads of shit coming out which I'm going to enjoy. I just don't think you can't say that about VR today. There's not that much interesting going on. We've all played Beat Saber. And I don't look at things like PSVR2 and go, yeah, I need to buy that day one. I can't imagine many people saying that because the lineup just isn't exciting enough.
Yeah, for me, it's the same with a lot of different like consoles and platforms. Like, especially with exclusive games. With PlayStation in particular, like there are a lot of PS exclusive games that I would be very tempted to play. Not like very tempted to buy a PlayStation for. Like I got a PS4 to play Bloodborne specifically because it looked awesome and I loved Dark Souls 3. And I think I've played Bloodborne. I finished it. I haven't finished the DLC because the game resets when you beat the final boss. It doesn't give you an option, it just resets, so you have to start over again, and I hadn't done the DLC yet, so I had to work up to that point and then just got tired of it. But that's like the one game that I played on there, so I saw the Demon's Souls remake on the PlayStation PS5, and I thought, like, man, I would love to play that. It's not on PC though, and that's the only game on there that I care about. I don't care about any other game on the PlayStation 5. And I'm not buying a whole other console just for that one game. It's just not worth it. It's the same with VR. Like, I'm using the company VR, the HTC Vive, and I love Beat Saber. Beat Saber's a lot of fun when it's modded. Base Beat Saber, nah. Like, I want to play all the custom songs, all the custom maps. Like, that's what makes it fun for me. And that's like the one game I care about.
Beat Saber's like a 7-year-old game at this point as well. Like, it's not exactly new shit.
And it's held up by the community, like all the people making custom maps. Like I watch anime, so each season, new anime comes out, and there's a bunch of really good like openings and ending songs, and the community makes some like awesome maps for them, and it's just really fun. Seeing a community keep up with that. But the base game itself is like I don't want to play it. So I played the campaign for the base game. Like some of the challenges that are in there are like really weird. Like one of them is. For some of the challenges, you need to like move your hands a minimum amount over the course of a single map, but it's like really hard. So literally, like the entire time, you're just like every spare opportunity you have, and then you stop to occasionally like swipe at some blocks coming at you. But it's like really like why? Plus, it's a lot of DLC to be like to get the good songs.
This is like a running theme with a lot of VR games, though. From like looking at like from Contractors to Beat Saber to Bone Lab. It's like people say these games are great because they've got so much cool moddable content. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. What about Which again, for people like us, great because we liked my journey started in modding. I love mods, and people who are kind of hardcore gamers, true gamers, are gonna want to engage in that kind of content, and they're gonna go to the effort of downloading things and unzipping .pack files and putting them in the right place and yada yada yada. But it's like that's not gonna fly. First off, on things like PlayStation 5 or Quest 2, like, and that's not gonna bring in gamers. Like, who buys a game because the game is meh, but the modding content is like great? That's not great. That's terrible. It's a terrible sales hook. Like, hey. People who aren't like proper game devs or like are hobbyists are doing a better job than the people whose like lives are dedicated towards making these kinds of products. And that honestly could describe like the majority of the VR market right now. The VR market is made up of like soulless IP cash-in things, Star Wars, Galaxies, whatever the fuck. Oh, and a bunch of like other games which are kind of like half finished or really small, but like hobbyists in their bedroom make those things amazing.
Although I will say the hobbyists and the modders do have access to like copyrighted content and stuff, and that no one's really going to come after them for that. So say Left 4 Dead can make that that keep the from Lord of the Rings, that map.
Helm's Deep, yeah.
Helm's Deep, and they can get away with it, and no one's going to come after them.
But that's what I mean is that
make those songs.
Is the difference is like Left 4 Dead at a base level is an amazing game, and you don't even need any of that stuff for it to be really enjoyable. It's just that stuff can be added. And yeah, you can't just steal people's other IPs and other people's content. But again, it's like, so therein lies the challenge of like, you've got to be creative and like come up with new shit. Like, yeah, the realm of modding is if you want to see like anime titty girls fighting Teletubbies in Helm's Deep, sure you can do that, and it's a fun fuck around. But that's not what sells systems. That's not what drives the industry forwards. That's like fun shit that prolongs the life of an already existing like amazing game. But that's not the main reason why we're turning up to play these sorts of products. And so it's like, yeah, you've got to come up with something new and interesting. And, Beat Saber is Beat Saber, and Blade and Sorcery, while it's improved, is still people fighting in gladiator arenas, and I guess they've got this procedural dungeon stuff. And Hot Dogs is reloading guns realistically, and and Bone Labs looks like Boneworks, but it's on the Quest 2, and it's like, okay, it's just none of this is interesting. It's interesting, but it's not. It's like, sorry guys, like great job, but not good enough. You need to be doing more. You need to be providing a greater breadth of experiences. You need to be pushing the boundaries more. And it's not like I guess you could have the argument of like VR is technically new in its current iteration. But it's not that new. It's been 10 years almost since DK1, right? Yeah, we're coming up on like 10 years since the DK1. And VR is still like a niche. And the major players in VR, honestly, are just not that impressive in the grand scheme of things. They were a couple of years ago, but they don't impress me now. And I don't see how they're going to impress people moving forward. I don't understand how things like the PlayStation VR, unless they've got a plethora of unannounced titles which are going to blow our heads off. And we know that things like End Dreams has an unannounced game, but you look at what they've done, you go, okay, if they're doing Fractured 2, is that going to get 1 million people buying a PlayStation VR 2? It's like, no, because no one fucking played Fractured 1 because it looks like shit and it has mixed reviews because it's not good, because it's just it's just the same dude, same bad AI, the same fucking skiing experience 3-4 times in a 2-hour linear experience with borderline no replayability. And that's meant to be one of like the top VR shooters. Like, wow, fucking, I'm really excited for whatever they do next. That's really going to make me, go out and buy like $800-900 worth of PlayStation equipment. I feel it's talking about these things that really makes me feel fucking crazy. Like, am I missing something here? Does anyone give a shit? Is anyone paying attention in the industry? Like, does anybody actually want to make amazing stuff? Does anybody see these fundamental flaws and like nightmare scenarios on the horizon? Because shit, like, I could have told you the second Stadia was announced and Snap Games and Apple Arcade, well, maybe not the second they were announced, but the moment that I engaged with those businesses and actually tried to progress, jumping through the hoops to get on Stadia, talking to the guys at Apple about Apple Arcade, etc., etc., it became really apparent very, very quickly that they had no idea what the hook of their product or platform was, and they couldn't see the impending doom on the horizon. Or again, they could, they just didn't care because, hey, I'm just doing my job, dude. I just turn up and, I just do shit for 8 hours a day and then I go home, I log off. And it's like, that's the sensation I'm getting with this stuff again, because it doesn't matter how cool your tech is, you've got to be bringing something new to the table. You've got to be providing entertainment that lasts more than 2 hours, and you've got to be doing stuff that really pushes things forwards. That to me is always, the games industry has always moved forwards through, technological and creative leaps. And it's been consistently doing that since Nintendo rocked up in the 80s. And I would say the last decade there's been a slowdown, and definitely the last 5 years a colossal slowdown. And now we're at the point, we're at a, this disastrous point where it's like the ground has never been more shaky. Because yeah, we're banking on VR, and it's like a major VR fuck up, like PlayStation not working out, could be disastrous to us. And yeah, if we'd gone, hey, well, at least Stadia's a safe bet because it's Google. Nope. hey, well, Netflix has got literally like 1 billion accounts, so how could they fuck this up? Nope. You know, where are we meant to go? How are we meant to exist in this ecosystem? How's anybody meant to exist in this ecosystem? Obviously, our bet is that by doing stuff radically different and going in the opposite direction to the rest of the industry, we'll find success. But it doesn't change the fact that along the way, we do actually have to rely on technology. We've got to rely on engines like the Unreal Engine. We've got to rely on platforms like Steam or PlayStation to be able to distribute our games. We can't do it all ourselves. And if the industry has a crash like it did in the 80s, inevitably we're going to feel that in some way. That's like a recession, like the pound falling. Nobody, doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, everybody feels it, right? So we're gonna feel it, and gamers are gonna be affected for years. If gamers are put off by VR because there's been several disastrous VR titles, or it's just a boring, uninteresting space, which it kind of is, then it's like it doesn't matter how good a product we put together, we're gonna be fighting against like negative preconceived notions. It's like there was a movie that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. I can't remember what it's called or really what it's about, but it's about a guy like doing wine tasting, and there's a line in it where he was like, oh, it's called Sideways. And this is Sideways. This is the Sideways effect. In the movie, there's a point where he's like, I don't want to fucking drink Merlot. Merlot fucking sucks. And immediately after that, like Merlot sales were like massively impacted for like 2 decades. Like they're still impacted to this day. And that's known as the Sideways effect, that like, a thing in pop culture, an event happening, no matter how small, just a single line in a film to other things, can then actually have like a taste-making effect. It can affect public opinion in such a way that thing is permanently affected moving forwards in the negative. Or I guess it could happen in the opposite direction. You could have something happen which is really positive, which then colors everyone's perspective as this thing's great. I guess like circumcision in America, they all love it. They all love it because apparently it's the best thing ever, even though the rest of the world is like, what the fuck? Like, you mutilate every child's dick? What? But clearly something had an effect on those guys. Weird analogy, I know, a weird reference, but it's true, something made them go fucking sideways, and hey, they're still doing it to this day, whereas the rest of us don't. So, that's the fear, is that that inevitably we're still part of the industry, even if we are the enemy team, even if we're at war with this industry, even if we're trying to completely destroy them and take over games, we're still part of a wider ecosystem, and their fuck-ups do affect us. And my god, is the industry fucking up at a absolutely astronomical fucking pace on so many different fronts that it's dizzying and hard to keep up with. And we're already in a position where it's like, well, why would you trust us? We're games developers. Like, when I think of game studios now, I think like words like disappointment and failure and cash grab are the things that come to mind. Like the studios that I grew up loving and wanting to work at or follow or be a part of, I want nothing to do with now. Professionally, but also as a gamer. If Bungie announces a new game for, I guess, PlayStation, maybe they're working on the next big VR title, but I've got a real bad taste in my mouth for Bungie. So, if that's where I'm at, towards established brands, and many people are, then, somebody new, relatively new coming along and saying, hey, we're actually going to do things differently. It's like, I'm going to have a hell of a lot of biases against you doing what you say you're going to do, because I've been through this before. I've heard people say, we're going to make the best VR game, or we're going to change things, we're going to make this amazing product, and we're not going to fuck you over financially, we're not going to put predatory systems in, and they do. They release a buggy piece of shit and fix it later, or they just straight up lie and say, we're going to have all these features in the game, and then they're just not present. That's the way gaming is now. It was not like that 10, 15, 20 years ago. Yes, there were disappointments. Yes, there were letdowns. But it was not... The status quo was not expecting things to be terrible. But that's where we're at now. And it makes things very difficult for us. So... But we like a challenge, right? If anything, we should like this. If things were good, there'd be no need for us to be doing what we're doing, right? So, if anything, we actually want things to be terrible. Like, if the industry crashes and burns, we'll survive. I think Jack said in the last episode, we're like the mammals during the end of the era of the dinosaurs, and we kind of want that asteroid to slam down into Earth and kill everything except us, because we're in our little burrows and we're just nibbling on like corn and shit and bits of leaf. But we're gonna burst forth. We're gonna take over. So I guess, okay, position reversed. Let's hope that the whole industry dies. Let's say, hooray, keep fucking up, keep doing a terrible job. Yes, it kind of negatively affects us, but ultimately we're going to come out on top because we're not going to go down with that ship.
Yeah, to a certain extent, if people stop making good games, like if all these huge companies keep fucking up and keep making terrible products, or even subpar products, then it does help to put more eyes on the indie developers, like the smaller developers. I feel like in order for a game to be successful these days, it even needs to get lucky. So like a few big streamers just randomly happen to play it, and everyone picks it up, and it starts building up an audience randomly. Or it needs to be a big AAA game that has like millions behind it, or it needs to be so shit, like so terribly awful that it's somehow actually good. Because there are streamers who play that too, like huge streamers who pick up these fan games. And I find it so funny because as a game developer browsing the Unreal Engine marketplace, there are so many like small games made by like one or two people that just straight up like rip all of these like market assets, all the free assets that I see on the markets, on the store on the whatever store face like every month. They just take those and just add them to the game and they turn that into a game somehow. And they're always so terrible, but it's so funny to see.
And it's good, as like it's streamer bait and it's good content for that and YouTubers and whatnot, but not good games. So we're living now in a perverse world where the people with all the money and the capacity to do things new and different want to be as conservative and safe and boring and as cheap as possible. And the people, so those are the people at the top, and then the people at the bottom are incentivized to make the biggest piece of shit imaginable so that loads of people look at it for a minute and go, ha ha, look at that thing's shit. Ha ha, woo. And then they move on. Not good. State of affairs is not good, but hey, that does create tremendous opportunity for us. All we have to do is make something good. Can we do it? I think we can. I think we've got a pretty good track record of that, and the fact that we've got like VR online gameplay working within like days is a good sign of that as well. So, I think let's wrap things up. So, the industry's in a state. VR might be dead before we get our time to shine. But maybe we'll be the same. Maybe it's on us to turn VR around. Yes, Bone Labs has 3 hours of gun jiggling physics content, and you've got boobies. You can play as a woman with tits. Wow, not enough. So we're gonna have to step in and sort of help Bone Lab, the Bone Lab guys out, and help PlayStation out. Bring something actually new and interesting to the table. And if things continue to go down the tube, good. Great opportunity for us. So thank you, industry, and thank you, audience, for watching. You can catch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Probably. Maybe we'll change that. But for now, just assume that we'll be coming up at 3 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. And next episode, we'll have some gameplay of Gunday. And probably Michael will have just figured out how to put online in, and we'll be hanging off of helicopters. Literally, in 2 days, no doubt. In 2 days, we'll be hanging off of helicopters. Meta-human characters applied, fully IK rigged, ready to go. It's going to be an awesome episode, and we look forward to see. No, we probably won't have any of that, but we'll have me probably. I think I'll be surfing on the back of a jet, doing drive-by shootings on unsuspecting NPCs. So hey, pretty fucking cool still. All right, we will see you in the next episode.